Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Ryan and Rush Show. On today's episode, Coach Dave Tallman of Morgantown High School joins the show, and we discuss his career and everything that's going on from here. All ahead on the Ryan and Rush Show. And we welcome you back to your source for West Virginia sports. I'm Rambling Rush. He's Moneyline Mac. We are the Ryan and Rush Show, and we're getting right into it with Coach Dave Tallman from Morgantown High School, Mr. State Champion back-to-back, one in 2016, and then back-to-back last year and this year, and also Mr. 45-0 against teams from West Virginia. Coach, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you guys. You guys have been strangers here lately in Morgantown.
Hey, how's it going, Mr. Back-to-Back? It's good to catch up again. I know that we have a long friendship, and just wanted to kick it off for our audience. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your background. I know everybody knows you as Morgantown High's coach, but it's not your first go around here coaching.
No, I was born in the game. My dad's a coach, longtime coach. Been the coach at Magnolia for many years, and he's won 3 state championships, and we've had a lot of success in our family. We were joking around today. Actually, we were on our way back from D.C. Watching the Bucks last night, and we were doing the math, and Trey said, you guys have won – since 2000, you guys have won 6 of the 24 state titles in the state. So I think I had a good mentor there in him and my mom growing up, and my 2 brothers. Nate actually played a year for Coach Beeline back in the Sweet 16 days. And my other brother, Dan, he was a manager for Coach Beeline. So we've got that Morgantown ties pretty good here. And then when I left Wheeling Jesuit, I moved down to Washington, D.C. area, coaching the D.C. Catholic League. As you know, MAC is the top league in the country. Some people say arguably. I don't think it's arguably. I think it is the top league in the country, and really grew as a coach and learned how to coach and went up against some really big-time players and big-time head coaches there. So I learned a lot and then had the opportunity to come back to Morgantown 9 years ago, and it's been 9 really good years.
Let me ask you something, Coach. So I do just consulting during my day job. I actually work for my dad's company, and there's definitely that aspect of sometimes you want to follow in your dad's footsteps, right? There's that aspect of I just want to create my own identity and have nothing to do with my dad, and everywhere in between. How did you know that you kind of wanted to follow in your dad's footsteps and that you wanted to be a coach yourself?
I just love the game. It's pretty much all I know. But I got a good story for you. When I was at Wheeling Jesuit, I went into business my freshman year, and that lasted about 3 weeks. And I said, I got to get out of here. These aren't my type of people. So I got out of that, went right into education, and the rest is history. But my mom's a teacher, or a retired teacher. My dad's a retired teacher, and it's just in the blood, and we've always been about helping the younger generations. And like I said, I've been in the gym since the day I was born, and that's pretty much all I knew.
Yeah, no, I always joke. I go, you're the second best Tallman coach in your family, because for those that don't know, his old man does have 3 state championships at Magnolia. But like you're talking about, back to Rush's question about how you wanted to go along your own path. You did for a little bit there, where you went to the WCAC, and you said, not arguably, it is the best league in high school in America, with all those good schools, Paul VI, DeMatha, Bishop Ireton, a lot of good friends there. How hard was it to leave the WCAC to come? I know you're a West Virginian, but still leaving the best league in America for Morgantown High. I know you've had a ton of success, but how hard was that decision when the time came?
Well, my son was 1 year old. I was he was a 1 year old. I was the athletic director as well. And I didn't spend any time at home. In that league, people probably aren't familiar. It's not like West Virginia. We're out recruiting all the time. I mean, I think I put 50,000 miles on my car in 1 year, and then you go up and you spend all this time, and there's a kid you think you're going to get, and he enrolls. And then the next day he reclassifies, goes to another school. And it was just stuff like that was kind of getting old. what I loved about it was just the competition and the fellowship of the other coaches. They were all amazing coaches, great guys. I mean, the guys I got to coach against were awesome. But we were at Little St. Mary's Riken with a terrible gym. We were an hour outside of the DC Catholic League. We finished third in the league once, I think, and then fourth. So that doesn't sound great, but if you know anything about that league, that was pretty impressive from where we came from. And we won 18 games twice there. And the last year, I just didn't want to keep kind of rolling that boulder up a hill. And it was just my dad told me one time, he's like, I think you've taken this program as far as it's going to go. And losing sucks, and you just had to battle like crazy to get players and just have an opportunity to win. So it's time for a better job and time to move on. I mean, I loved it, but it was it's been a lot better, with the wins and things at Morgantown. Yeah, it's been a better lifestyle too.
Absolutely. So Ryan and I think this, Coach, is we grew up together in Northern Virginia. Paul VI, when it was still in Fairfax City. I mean, that was 10 feet. I played in the Little League field right next to it, and now it's in Loudoun County, so a little further than we grow up. But I'm sure, with kind of being that hybrid high school and college coach, because you can, recruit in what we called the Catholic League. We didn't even know the initials WCAC. We just knew it was the Catholic League because that's what everyone called it. Around is, but you still, you make those relationships, you still hold on, you network. And we know, we'd love to hear the story of, we know that you were able to do, I guess, a closed practice or scrimmage with Paul VI. You had him come to Morgantown. How did you swing that?
Well, shout out Glenn Farello. I mean, I think he's one of the best coaches in the country. He's a dear friend of mine to this day. The coach at Paul VI. At one point, I think they were number one in the country this year. Just an amazing person, amazing guy. He's come up to WVU for tailgates and stuff with us. So, credit to him to bring one of the top programs in the country up to Morgantown for a scrimmage. And they actually came up for a game in our tournament a couple years after that. So I probably owe him a trip, although I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for his talent to run out, but I don't think that's going to happen. But just an awesome guy. And that's what I mean. Like when we won the state championship this year, multiple guys from the WCAC reached out to me, and it means a lot.
Yeah, no, it really is like a coaching fraternity. I mentioned it. Glenn Farello at Paul VI. You had Mike Jones, who's now just got the Maryland job, associate head coach for Kevin Willard. He was the head coach at DeMatha, and then Morgan Wooden's son, Joe Wooden at Bishop O'Connell. You got so many good coaches in there. Let me ask you this: I know you've coached against a ton of good players in that league. Who stood out from all those years the most? Who was the hardest to game plan for? And who I'm trying to ask this the right way. Who did the best job with the least? Other than you, obviously, at Riken, because you
talking from a coaching standpoint?
Yes, because there's so many, like, it's easy to say PVI, DeMatha, those guys, because their talent, obviously they do a good job. But who doesn't get as much credit in that league that deserves more?
Man, that's a tough one. I'm trying to think. It's it's crazy, Mac, not to duck the question, but like every year it was different because DeMatha had their years where they had 7 guys on their team that are now in the NBA. So Mike had great years those years, which he should have. Man, that's a tough one. Neil Berkman, maybe Bishop Ireton, throw his name out there.
He's come up for a tailgate.
Yep, I love Neil Berkman. He was a guy that he and I probably had the worst talent in the league. So when we played, you knew it was going to be an X's and O's clinic. I mean, we went back and forth quite a bit, and I think Glenn Farello, when he first got the PVI, they weren't, what they are now. And I think he's done a tremendous job. You mentioned Joe Wooten and Mike Jones. Don't forget about Steve Turner. I mean, that's a guy at Gonzaga. They've had great talent, but it's also a high academic school where, he's got to have the right kids. So, and I don't want to leave anybody out because they were all very, very good.
So coming back here from the WCAC, the Catholic League, definitely Wheeling Jesuit, WCAC, back to Morgantown High. Talk about kind of that transition going from, like we were talking about, that hybrid kind of college, high school. Now you can just settle and you only have the kids in a certain area to focus on. I'm sure there was some relief in that, but then there was also some of the, I only have the kids in this area. talked about that transition and what it was like and kind of getting settled here and making a name for yourself. I mean, the Tallman name, has always been a name, but specifically Dave Tallman in Morgantown.
Yeah, I think my dad always took pride in, he won his 3 titles with kids all from New Martinsville. Then you go to the DC Catholic League, and if you don't recruit, you're not going to be there long. So, that was a big part of a big piece of the puzzle. And then you come back to Morgantown where you're not allowed to recruit again. So everybody we've won titles with are all from Morgantown. But I've been blessed. I mean, we have really good talent here. We've had years where we didn't have as good as talent as other years. But even on those seasons, we found a way to win, a bunch of games. But you got to develop who you got. And I think like when I was at Riken, I could recruit more towards – I ran a lot of beeline stuff, so I could recruit more towards that. We could bring kids in from Europe, had a bunch of Europeans for that style. We're here. If I got Nick Malone, who's now an offensive tackle at WVU, we're probably not running, 2-guard as much. So
yeah,
you have to change every year kind of what your game plan is going to be and how you're going to attack people. So that's probably the biggest change.
Makes sense. And you mentioned it, like you've had really good players here as well, just being in the Morgantown area. You have a special one right now, obviously, in Sharon Young. Obviously, he just visited West Virginia. He's got multiple offers as well. How does he compare to some of the better players or great players you've coached over the years in the WCAC? And not so much his talent. I think his talent speaks for itself, but just the person he is, his approach, tuning out all the distractions. What do you think of that, Coach?
Yeah, and when college coaches call me, that's the first thing I tell them. I say, I coached in the DC Catholic League. If he were there, he would be starting on the teams in the DC Catholic League, which is, when they kind of hear that, their ears perk up. And that's not blowing smoke. We went over to DC Live this summer, and we played Gonzaga. We played St. John's to 6 points, and they have the DC Player of the Year, the point guard he went up against and battled him. So he's right there on that level. There's no doubt. He just got on Midwest AAU team out of Ohio. That's one of the top teams on the Adidas circuit. So I think his recruiting is really going to take off this summer. But he's been incredible. He had a broken hand, was out 6 weeks, and came back and had 25 in the state semifinals 2 games back. So he's a heck of a talent.
You brought up something really interesting, Coach, especially when you have a talent like Sharon Young is when you were at the WCAC, right? It was more about kind of that recruiting, bringing in these great players, bringing in these puzzle pieces where you fit. You move back to a place like Morgantown. Now it's, I have to develop talent. Now I have to develop what I have. So it kind of, you get into this position that it was kind of like the pre-transfer portal days in the college relevant versus you just have what you have. You had that. So what has been the hardest thing about developing talent and speaking to when you develop someone like Sharon Young is how in this new NIL era has that affected a player like him or other players?
Well, I think a lot of coaches by mistake are a little old school and they fight the trainers and that the AAU teams and things like that. Yeah. I think me being in DC, I saw the benefit of that. So I try to have a working relationship with all those people. Like Nate Smith in town does a terrific job with shooting. Jawan Staten was here. I mean, I encourage our guys to go to them. And then on the AAU side, some teams like try to go play as a whole. And I think that's a mistake. I think, Sharon's going to play the team. Izzy's playing with a different team. Jacob's playing with another team, but they're all playing on a really good circuit. So, I think it's important for them to kind of branch off and find themselves in the off season and develop on their own a little bit. And then, they'll come back to us in June for the June period. And then, July, they'll go back to AAU. And then once school starts, we'll have them again. So I think our plan works. I mean, I think the proof's in the pudding, but I think our plan works. And, when Sharon comes back, here in a couple months, I'm sure he's going to be pretty impressive, when the gains he's made.
Now, do any of those players like Sharon, do they have any NIL deals right now? How does that work on a high school level? And what not only the development factors, but what's it actually been like to transition? And it definitely seemed like you're more progressive in the sense where it's like, hey, this is here to stay. You know, we're not going to fight this. Like we might as well be the benefactor of this. What has that been like?
Well, I think me being in the DC Catholic League kind of gives me a head start on a lot of this if it does happen. We don't have NIL yet in West Virginia,
Okay.
as far as I know, but they just open up the transfer portal.
Okay.
So people are starting to, you're still not allowed to recruit, but I know I've heard stories already, teams down south that are, kids are bouncing around and people are jockeying for position on kids. But, I think at Morgantown High, our program pretty much, not to get cocky, but I think it recruits itself. I think if a kid's a good player and he's in our, in our system, in our middle schools, I'm pretty sure they're going to stay and they want to be Mohegans. So that's important. I don't think we have to get out there and break any rules or anything to be successful.
No, you don't. Yeah. So NIL is controlled by the state then, because you hear about these kids in California and Oregon getting NIL deals in high school.
Yeah, some states have it and others don't, but I think it's
interesting.
Yeah, I'm on the national board, so I think it's definitely coming down that with the shot clock, and there's a lot of things that are out there that are coming down our way, but we'll see. We'll see what happens in West Virginia. We always seem to be lagging behind. I mean, Maryland. When I was in Maryland, we had a shot clock, so we're still waiting.
Yeah, and speaking of times changing and rules changing, it's currently April the 5th as we're doing this interview, discussion, whatever you want to call it. We're getting into the off season. You just won the state championship back to back. What's your out? What will you guys do for the summer, the remainder of the spring, into the fall before you're 100 miles an hour back into the trenches again? I obviously you guys will go to West Virginia team camp like you do every year. Your fans show up. It's an event for your fan base. And the second question, is there a better camp director than Ryan McIntyre?
I'll answer the second. I'll pull a Hugs. I'll answer the second question first and forget the first one. No, Mac, you were the GOAT. We're gonna miss you. I think you need to come back that weekend though and hang out, especially for Hugs.
I can do that.
We can arrange that.
He could always count on me to give him the 10 a.m. slot rather than a 9 a.m. and 8 a.m. on Sunday. A little sleep in because the coach's social was always the Saturday night before. So give you a couple hours of shut eye. So, But yeah, what's your guys' off season plan?
So, like I said, our guys right now are playing AAU. I know they started last weekend. We basically release them to that. We got a great program at our school where our kids get their strength and conditioning in while they're in school. So I don't have to worry about them missing that. So Coach Bizer, our football coach, does a unbelievable job with that. So they're getting that in, and then they're getting their practices and games in with their AAU teams. And I'm happy with where all of my guys are playing. So, that's one thing I try to help them a little bit, make sure they all have a good fit. And then they'll come back to us. Once school's out in early June, the team camp is I think it's like the 9th, whatever that weekend is of June. We'll be at WVU Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We'll have 3 different teams in that camp. As you said, the red and blue is well represented at the team camp. Yeah. So it's just been a staple, and we appreciate you guys, all the work you've done with that over the years, you and Josh and, Coach Hugs and everybody. So it's just a great thing for us. And then that following weekend, we started this last year. We're having our own shootout now that we have the Milan Park courts out there. They're awesome. So last year we had a bunch of teams come in and we hosted a one-day shootout, and we had I think there was like over 30 college coaches there for that. So we're going to have that again. And then I think it's the June 23rd weekend. We're actually we got invited to go to the Midwest Live, which for people that don't know, they have the live NCAA recruiting periods now for high schools in June. Last year we went to DC Live, which was great to go back and see some friends. But this year we're going to go to Midwest Live, which is at Cedar Point. It's going to be the best, basically, teams from West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, and Michigan. So, and from what I understand, about every college coach in America will be there. And kids get to go to Cedar Point, and that'll be pretty much how we finish the summer up. And then They changed the rules. I don't know if they're in effect yet, but it used to be a 3-week period for us. Now we have like 36 flex days where we can work with them. So West Virginia has come a long way, and I give the SSAC credit. So we'll have workouts here and there, but as you know, July they'll go back out on the circuit, and then once August rolls around, they'll be with us again.
Nice. Speaking of Coach Huggins, obviously West Virginia University and Morgantown High School, obviously in Morgantown, and basically being next door neighbors, going to his camp, being around Huggins a lot. Obviously your family's been influential in the state of West Virginia and West Virginia basketball. How has Coach Huggins and his philosophy been part of your coaching style? Has Huggins mentored you? What is your relationship with Coach Huggins?
It's been great. Like I said, when I was younger and I was in college, I worked all Beeline's camps, and my brother played for Beeline. So I feel like I kind of hit the lottery because I sat down with him. I learned all of his offense. And anybody that knows anything about him, he's a wizard offensively. Yeah. So, and then once he left, John Flowers, I was the assistant coach at St. Mary's Riken when John Flowers committed to WVU under Beeline, and then Beeline left for Michigan. And Hugs came in, and that was pretty much the first time I got to know him a little bit. And, he re-recruited John to go to WVU. And then my dear friend, Mac, David Kiefer was with Hugs out at Kansas State and at Cincinnati. And Kiefer came to be on my staff at Riken, and him and Hugs were really close. And his dad and Hugs' dad are like really good friends. So right away, I felt like Hugs and I had good chemistry, and I got to learn all of his defensive stuff. So our program's pretty much loosely based on Beeline's offense and Hugs' defense, which has been it's been really good for us.
I was going to say that's a winning duo right there, because Beeline is an offensive wizard, and obviously Hugs Hall of Fame. You think of Hugs, you think of defense and rebounding, and I'm glad you mentioned Kiefer, because that was my next question I was going to ask you. How cool has it been to watch guys like David Kiefer, James Long, you coach the TBT with, guys that have just grown in the business while obviously you've been coaching with them, they coach under you, or you've coached with them. How's that on the outside looking in? That's got to be pretty cool, right?
It's been awesome. Kiefer was amazing. He was with Hugs, and he wanted to come and get in coaching. So he had an opportunity. My assistant job was open. He came down with me. Probably had a lot of other opportunities with the connections that he has, but we just hit it off. We coached together for a few years, and he's one of my dear friends to this day. And now he's at Southeast Louisiana. He's a Division I head coach after many a journey through, random programs, probably volunteering and everything else. He's just grinded his way to the top, and he was coach of the year in his league last year. So they're doing well. And I always joke with him. I was like, I'm not ready to come down to the Bayou of Louisiana and work with you, but here in about 10 years when you're at a high major, don't forget about the guy hired you. So, but I love him to death. He's right here on my wall behind me. I got a picture, and that's my guy for sure.
That's great. Speaking of that, you've been the high school coach at Morgantown. That's what we mainly been talking to you about. You've had the local kind of play, you have what you have and you play with it. You've been in the Catholic League over in DC where you're recruiting. You've gotten a taste of kind of both lifestyles, Coach. Do you think that you'll go to the next level? Do you think you want to make an attempt at being a college coach, or do you think you're right where you are and you're just happy where you are?
I had a couple like nibbles after this, championship this year, and I'm not gonna name any names or where it came from, but I'm really happy. I'm really happy where I'm at right now. My son's 10, my daughter's 7. We got a great house, great neighborhood. Morgantown High has been fantastic to me. We got a lot of talent, here now. We got a lot of talent coming up. So I think, maybe one of these days, I don't have a crystal ball, but I think eventually I'll get back into that stuff. But I don't think anytime soon. I really like where I'm at, and things change in this business like crazy. If, Duke called me and needed an assistant, I'd probably go tomorrow. But, but I mean that. I think I got, as Max said, I got a lot of, guys that I know that are kind of grinding their way up through. And, if someday I could latch on to one of them, and just be a little part of their program more as a retirement job. That would be something I would definitely look at, but no time soon.
It's an interesting retirement job. A lot of people like have a retirement job and then they go coach high school.
Yeah.
Or like Calhoun did, go coach Division III. Your retirement job is I want to scale up and go coach.
Well, yeah, I mean, but there's a lot of like Matt can tell you, there's a lot of pieces to college. You know, there you have your assistants, you have the head coach, you have the operations guys, video guys. Yep. You know, you're well, Mac. I mean, some guys make a really good living, doing ops and things without having to go on the road and leaving their family. Mm-hmm. So, anything, I'm open to anything, if the right person calls, but it has to be, I hate losing. I don't want to go back to a situation where you're going to get beat. So it had to be the right guy in the right situation.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't think people on the outside looking in, yes, like you see the college coaches going up and down the sideline, they're on TV, but like it is hard on your family life. And you mentioned it, you're happily married, you got 2 kids, are they 10 and 12 now, you said?
10 and 7. Brooklyn 7.
10. Yeah. Okay. Because I was like, I thought I heard you say 12, and I'm like,
no,
man, they're already that old. I remember when they were 2 and 4.
So his first, not to interrupt you, but his first year, I probably saw him 2 days a week because I was getting home so late because I was the AD, and when you're that young, you're going to bed early, and that ate me up. I hate and then I'd be out recruiting on the weekends and stuff, and not be able to see him. So that stuff ate me up. So I mean, I love the situation I'm in right now, and when they're grown and out of here, which people tell me time flies. So sooner than later, maybe we'll look at it when it's just Natalie and I.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like you said, you like to take, what do you like to do outside of coaching basketball? Because I know obviously we follow each other on social media. You mentioned it last night. You were in DC watching Javon Carter. Just tell everybody, what do people not know about Dave Tallman, not the basketball coach? Well,
I had a guy, he was our dean of students down at Riken. He was a former state cop, and he had 3 boys that were awesome kids. Gary Willis was his name. And he told me when Trey was born, he said, "Sit down a minute, Davey, I want to talk to you." And he told me, he said, "I'm going to give you some advice." He goes, "Kids will never remember the presents that you give them. Whether it's the Barbie doll that's hot that year or whatever, but they'll always remember the events." And, when I look back at my childhood, my mom and dad, they took me to the World Series. I mean, I remember all those things. I couldn't tell you one toy that I ever got. So I think in our free time, there's not much of it, but when there is, like yesterday, we jump in the car, we go to DC to watch Giannis and Javon, and we sat, a couple rows behind their bench. So Trey got to see how mammoth of a man, Giannis was. and it's amazing, like JC at his stature, like playing against those guys, how well he's doing. And we're going to go Friday night to watch Andrew McCutcheon's coming back to Pittsburgh, first game back. We're going to go do that.
That's right.
We'll go to PGA events. I mean, I like to play golf here and there. I'm not very good at it, even though Mac cheats in my golf tournament. But but I think we just stay active. We try to go to any event that we can, and if there's something cool going on, like some big time pitcher comes into Pittsburgh, we'll go up and watch them. So
nice.
That's pretty much what we do.
Because you're a big Penguins, Pirates, and Steelers fan, right?
Yeah, Penguins, Pirates, Steelers. When I was a kid, my dad and his buddies got pissed off with the Pirates, so we bought Indians season tickets back in the 90s. So when they opened up Jacobs Field, and I got to go to 2 World Series and watch those guys. So the tribe is near and dear to my heart too.
Oh yeah.
Well, you're clearly giving shout outs to your kids. And I think this is something, it's kind of the forgotten, but most backbone part of your family, I'm sure, the coach's wife, right? Huh. Talk about a little bit about, just your wife stepping up, and especially when you had, a newborn and you're out on the road recruiting, and she's, having to take on kind of at times the mother and father role. Well, not, obviously not that you're neglecting, but you have to go work. You have to go provide income for the family. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I don't know much, but I know when the good Lord takes her, she's going straight to heaven after dealing with me. No, I mean, I think And people don't realize that. So like when, people were in the crowd, complaining about the coach, they hear that, the kids hear that. I grew up a coach's kid, so it eats on you, and I told Trey, I said, buddy, we're not going to win a state title every year. Like you're super prepared. Like it's going to be okay, if we don't win. But no, she's been amazing. She moved down to Southern Maryland, with when we were kind of getting together, and left her family behind and moved down there like I did. So, and then she worked down there for the government. And then when I said, hey, we're going to come back to Morgantown, we both took a pretty big pay cut to come back. But she's from, Eastern Ohio, right outside of Wheeling. So for her, it was a chance to get closer to her family and me to get closer to mine. So, but people don't realize what they go through, because usually when we come home, even if we win, we're in a bad mood and we're upset. There's a kid that's upset because he didn't get to play, or a parent, or there's always issues. You know that, Mac. Like it's never as good as it seems. So, and we're our toughest critics. So we're always, angry and upset when we come home. You try not to bring it home, but it's hard to have your mind focused on your family. So they deal with a lot of our BS, and without them allowing us to do what we do, we couldn't do it.
That's awesome.
No doubt. The coach's wife is the MVP of the household. And the worst thing you ever did was win back-to-back state championships, because now you have to keep winning, or otherwise they're going to be calling for your head. And speaking of parents, like you mentioned it with how we talked about with the high school team camp, it kind of has become one of the staples events of your summer. We have a strong mutual friend, Rocky Simmons. I was on the phone with him, me and Rush with Rocky, and we said, hey, we're having Tallman on the show tonight. And we said, you want to ask him anything? And I thought this was a pretty cool question. This is coming from Rocky, and he'll be watching it once we get this posted. Just how are you able to create such a we team philosophy all the way from coaches, players, and to the parents? And he says, boom, congrats on back-to-back once again.
First of all, I love Rocky. And let me say this. Since I came to Morgantown, I can't believe the support, and I'm not blowing smoke. Like, the community is so amazing. Like, if you need anything, I mean, Mac, you play my golf tournament, you see how that is. I mean, it's just a really cool event. And they're all great people. So they're always here to lend a helping hand. And Rocky is a huge part of that. So those guys make our program run as well as, as much as anybody. But back to the question, I just think, we tried to make everybody in the program feel important. And a lot of that's because of our fundraising. So we can get the nicest gear, and we can travel on charter buses, and we can, have the beautiful facility. And we're getting a new video board this summer in our gym, and getting a brand new floor and a new paint job. I mean, so our locker room is state of the art. I mean, everything's been amazing. That's because of our community. But I think whether you are the number 1 player in our program or the number 36 player in our program, you feel a big part of it. You feel special. I learned that from Hugs too. I know there's other coaches out there that treat their walk-ons like crap, and Hugs makes them, treats them like gold. So they're doing the film, watching the running, the conditioning, the preseason work, the weightlifting, as much as your superstars are. So I hope that answers his question, but I think we just try to treat them all, like they're the best player in the program.
That's great. That's awesome. But definitely building that sense of community. And you're absolutely right about Morgantown. You can ask Ryan, we've talked about it, from Northern Virginia, just right near PVI, but there's a reason we keep coming back here. I mean, pandemic happened and job went virtual. I'm like, I'm moving back to Morgantown. It is one of the most supportive, just great communities out here. And we've, of course, all had a lot of fun together and gotten together for a few beers, and, just with everyone around. It doesn't matter if you're the high school coach, a booster, just some guy coming in to check out. It's just, you're always welcome here, which is awesome. But
real quick, and you guys asked me about like relationship with Hugs and WVU. Like I always kind of tell people, I'm like, are you going to go to college? You could take this D3 job, this D2 job. I was like, there's certain areas I don't want to live and move my family to, because guys like Mac and Coach Hugs and Larry and Ronnie and Billy and, I can go on and on, Josh, all of them. They've always made my family feel welcome. I mean, honestly, you guys make us feel like we are on the staff at WVU, like we're like an extension. So I'm always welcome. Anytime. If my wife, remember my wife coming home one time and saying, "Hey, I was in the store and Coach Harrison said hi to me." You know what I mean? Like, you guys always make people feel welcome, and that's a big part of that.
Couldn't agree more. Just by being friends with Ryan, like they bring me right in as well. It's definitely just there's no egos. It's just love. You know, we're in Morgantown. We're all in it together. Might as well have a good time while we're in it. But moving on to more important things, your golf tournament.
Yeah.
You do a golf tournament every year. And hey, if you think Ryan cheats, I usually play my ball off of Ryan cheating. So I'm probably even a bigger cheater. I just like to hack and swing around, drink beer, and have a good time. But my money's just as good, I promise. Talk to us a little bit about your golf tournament, any other type of booster events you do. Definitely do your plug, Coach.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up because I just got the date yesterday.
Nice,
So
perfect timing.
I got my pen.
Mac, you need to write this down. Ryan, Russ, you better come up this year.
Oh, I'm already here.
It's Saturday, August 5th at 1:00 at Lakeview. They've hosted us since I've been here. So this is our 8th or 9th year doing it. When I first came to Morgantown, there you go. When I first came to Morgantown, a lot of people, I always heard like, "Hey, these people like to give money and then their kid plays." And I said, "Well, that's not going to be the deal anymore." So I tried to create events. I don't want to do car washes and sell Joe Corby pizza. No offense to Joe Corby, but I think I wanted to do events that people enjoy. So I enjoy golf, so we're going to do a golf tournament. We raffle off 2 WVU basketball season tickets. If we need more money, we'll do like a Yeti cooler raffle. So one year Owen Schmidt had a big concert for us at his place. So anything that's fun that people like to come to, that's pretty much what we're going to do. So I don't want to hate our fundraising, so we try to make it fun.
And I can speak from firsthand. It is a great time. They got a lot of events, a lot of giveaways, and I am a defending champion. 2 years ago, the backstory of everybody says we cheated. We did not cheat. Me and the 2 Tallmans, not Dave. It was Nate and Dan, and Trent Michaels at the time was a GA. Now he's the director of operations. I think what would we go 17 under?
Yeah. The thing is, they played so far ahead of everybody. There was nobody there to watch them. So I don't know.
Dan was carrying us. Dan and Nate. I was just putting.
Well, that statement right there tells me you guys did cheat.
I can tell
I heard Trent and Mac are pretty good, although they allegedly drove a golf cart into a lake one time. But we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as long as Trent's not driving the golf cart, everyone stays all right.
Okay.
Everybody go ask Bubba Schmidt that question at your golf course.
Allegedly, right, Mac? Allegedly.
Yeah, it wasn't my cart that went in the pond. I was there though. I don't think it'll be an experience that I'll never forget, watching a golf cart go across 3 fairways into a pond 3 holes over. And somehow doesn't hit a tree or flip at all. Incredible, to be honest.
We're not going to mention any names. We're not mentioning any names.
It was like that game growing up, Frogger. Yeah.
Amazing.
Sometimes I wish I could putt that straight, right? It's just not hitting anything on the way. But Coach, again, thank you so much for coming on. As we wrap up, it is the week of the Masters. We've been talking about golf.
Yeah.
Who do you have winning the Masters this year on this Easter Sunday?
Oh, man, I think it's Rory's turn, isn't it? I think Rory's. I don't know. I think he's right there. I mean, I'm pulling for Tiger, but I think that's a long shot now. I'm just happy he's there, and I hope he makes the cut so I can tune in. But I don't know, man. I think Rory's been waiting on that green jacket, so I'm gonna put my money on him. Who you guys got? Who's the favorite?
Well, it's the 3 guys that are pretty clear-cut favorite. I think are Scheffler, McIlroy, and Rahm. They seem to have separated themselves as the big 3, and the betting odds say that as well. I agree with you, though. I think Rory's going to complete the personal Grand Slam and get it done and get the green jacket. He's won the PGA, the US, and the British Open. Now I think it's his turn to finally win the Masters. So I'll take Rory. I'll ride with you, Coach.
Yeah.
I feel like with Rory, we just keep hearing that, though. Like, it's his turn to win the Masters. I'm probably going really chalky here, but it seems like every time I watch golf, at least one time during the weekend, Scheffler's at the top. Like, if I was putting money on it, I'd probably go Scotty. But I know, that's chalky.
I'm a big believer in like kind of the fate, and as our good friend Billy Hahn By the way, send prayers up for Billy.
Absolutely.
He talks about basketball gods, and I think the golf gods, Rory really stuck his neck out there and fought for the PGA last year when all that was going on with the Live Tour. So I just think maybe the golf gods will be in his favor this week.
Little karma. Nice.
I like that. I think the real question is, are they going to get it in 4 days? Because they're calling for bad weather on the weekend. But it seems like they call that every year, and somehow the sun is beaming on the back nine. It's like God says, you guys are playing the Masters right now.
I'd be more worried if they were calling for sun all week, I mean.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's like the Mohegan Golf Scramble. It's going to 100% chance of rain every year, and we get it in.
That 1 year was brutal.
Yeah, it was. But we got it in. We had fun.
We did get it in. Yeah, you just had to drive your cart through the ponds on the cart path instead of actually driving into a pond.
Always a good time.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, Coach, thank you so much. I'm guessing on Sunday, like the rest of us, after a nice Easter dinner, we'll be taking a nice snooze. Hopefully, watching the Masters on that. Good luck with the season coming up. Congrats on all your accomplishments. We appreciate you. We love you. And hey, let's hopefully do this again sometime, maybe before the season starts or something. We'll do a preview. But anyway, all the best. Thanks again, Coach.
Sounds great, guys. Great seeing you. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Coach. Go Mountaineers.
Go Mountaineers.